Today's topic is oogenesis. Oogenesis is female gametogenesis. Spermatogenesis is male gametogenesis. Oogenesis is female gametogenesis. Right? Oogenesis will occur in the ovary. Before going to study about oogenesis, if you know the basic anatomical concept of female reproductive organs, it will help you to understand remaining concepts very easily. That's what I am going to discuss very briefly about female reproductive organs. I am not going in detail. The detailed anatomical structure we will study in gross anatomy classes. At this session, I will give very brief idea about female reproductive organs. So, if you take the uterus having upper dilated portion and lower constricted portion. Right? Actually, this is uterus. Uterus having from here to here, this is body, and from here to here, this is cervix. Clear? And body having dome shaped elevation in the superior part, this part what we call fundus. Just below the fundus, you can find two small projections. These projections what we call cornu or horn. At the level of cornu, there will be opening of fallopian tubes. What are these? These are fallopian tubes on either side. On either side, there will be fallopian tubes. Right? And if you take the coronal section of uterus, lumen of uterus appear as triangular in shape. Triangular in shape. But if you take the sagittal section of uterus, you can see slit-like appearance. Right? Now, I am taking coronal section of uterus. So, how it will be? It will be like this. So, lumen of uterus is triangular in shape. Right? And this is lumen of body of uterus, and here lumen of body of cervix. Clear? Of course, here is the lumen of fallopian tube. What is this? This is lumen of fallopian tube on either side. Clear? And this cervix, it will opens into the vaginal cavity or vaginal canal. So, it is opening into the vaginal cavity. Right? So, uterus having body and cervix. At the junction of body and cervix, here there will be one constricted area is there. That is 1 centimeter long. This 1 centimeter long constricted area, what we call isthmus. Here is the isthmus. Right? Then, if you take the measurements of uterus, 7 to 8 centimeters long and 5 to 7 centimeters width, 2 to 3 centimeters thickness. Right? And it is having body and cervix. Body having upper dome shaped elevation. This elevation what we call fundus. On either side you can find the cornu. At the level of cornu there will be opening of fallopian tubes. Right? And there will be cervix. This is cylindrical cervix, dilated body. Right? The cylindrical cervix opening into the vaginal cavity or vaginal canal. And if you observe in the cervix having two openings. Here one opening, this opening communicating into the cavity of body of uterus. and here one more opening, this opening communicating into the vaginal cavity, right? So this opening communicating into the cavity of body of uterus, this opening what we call internal os, and here one more opening, this opening communicating into the cavity of vagina or vaginal cavity, this opening what we call external os. This is internal os and this is external os. This cavity of cervix what we call cervical canal. What is this? This is cervical canal. Clear? Then if you observe layers of uterus, uterus having outer peritoneal covering or peritoneal layer, this outer peritoneal layer what we call perimetrium. What is this? This layer of uterus what we call perimetrium. It is a peritoneal covering, and here muscular coat, thick muscular coat will be there. This thick muscular coat what we call myometrium. Next to the perimetrium, from here to here, this thickest layer of uterus what we call myometrium. Myo means muscle, right? It's made up of muscle tissue, smooth muscle fibers. So that's what this is, myometrium. Of course here also this is myometrium, and you can form innermost layer, thin innermost layer. That innermost layer what we call endometrium. What is this? This is endometrium. This is endometrium. Very simple. Uterus having three layers. Outer perimetrium, it is peritoneal layer or peritoneal covering. Middle myometrium, it is made up of smooth muscle fibers. And inner endometrium, that what we call mucosa of uterus. Mucosa of uterus, what we are calling endometrium. Clear? So this is about uterus in brief, right? Then we will discuss about fallopian tubes. Fallopian tube having 10 centimeters length, 1 centimeter diameter. 10 centimeters thickness and 1 centimeter diameter, and it contains different parts. What are those parts? Here there is a part with finger-like projections. This part of fallopian tube, what we call infundibulum. Infundibulum. This part of fallopian tube, what we call infundibulum. Infundibulum. Right? Next to the infundibulum, there will be dilated tortuous area is there. This area what we call ampulla. Ampulla. Actually, ampulla is site of fertilization. Here, dilated tortuous part of fallopian tube, what we call ampulla. Ampulla is site of fertilization. And here, we can find constricted area of fallopian tube. This constricted area of fallopian tube, what we call isthmus. Actually, here also you can see isthmus. This is isthmus of uterus, and here isthmus of fallopian tube. Right? And here, this is the part of the fallopian tube which is present in the muscle tissue of uterus, or it is present in the uterus. This part what we call intrauterine part or intramural part. Intramural. What is a mural? What is the meaning of mural? Intramural part. Mural means muscle. So, part of the fallopian tube which is present in the myometrium, what we call intramural part. Clear? Fallopian tube having two openings. Here, one opening. This opening communicating into the peritoneal cavity. And here, another opening. It is communicating into the uterine cavity. Right? Actually, through this communication, ovulated ovum passes through this, enters into this opening, and it will fertilize over here, and the fertilized zygote will reach us to the uterus through this opening. Right? If there is no fertilization also, secondary oocyte passes through this lumen, reaches to the uterine cavity, and it will be degenerated. Right? So that is about fallopian tube. And after fallopian tube, we have to discuss about ovary. Ovary, it is female gonad. Ovary is female gonad, and ovary is surrounded by white connective tissue layer, but I am drawing with black color. This is white connective tissue layer. This white connective tissue layer what we call tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea. This tunica albuginea surrounded by germinal epithelium. Germinal epithelium. Actually, this germinal epithelium is made up of cuboidal cells or cuboidal epithelium. So, this is germinal epithelium of ovary. Right? And ovary contains inner medulla, outer cortex. So, ovary contains inner medulla. This inner medulla made up of vascular connective tissue, and outer cortex. Cortex contains different stages of developing follicles after puberty. But before puberty, cortex contains primordial follicles. Right? So, very simple. Ovary, it is female gonad which contains outer cortex, inner medulla. Inner medulla made up of vascular connective tissue. Outer cortex made up of different stages of developing follicles. Ovary is surrounded by connective tissue layer. That connective tissue layer what we call tunica albuginea. Then that tunica albuginea covered by germinal epithelium. The germinal epithelium made up of cuboidal epithelium. Any difficulty up to here? If no, we will discuss about oogenesis. Actually, oogenesis will occur in the ovary. Right? That's why I will try to discuss oogenesis within the ovary. That's what I will make little bigger ovary, and I will try to explain oogenesis within the ovary. That's what I am removing all these structures, and I will try to enlarge this diagram to explain oogenesis within the ovary. Okay. So, I am enlarging this ovary now. So this is Tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea surrounded by what is the epithelium? Germinal epithelium. That germinal epithelium made up of cuboidal cells. So I am drawing germinal epithelium over here. So this is germinal epithelium. Right? Ovary contains inner medulla, outer cortex. Right? Actually, when you are discussing about oogenesis, we have to discuss under two stages or two phases. That is prenatal phase and postnatal phase. Prenatal phase means what? Before birth. Postnatal phase means what? After birth. So, oogenesis will occur before birth and after birth. That means it will occur in two phases. Actually, in case of males, spermatogenesis will start at the puberty. Right? But in case of females, oogenesis will start within the intrauterine life itself. Clear? So, first there will be formation of oogonia. Oogonia will enlarges, will forms the primary oocyte. Primary oocyte undergoes first meiotic division and produces secondary oocyte and first polar body. Secondary oocyte undergoes second meiotic division and produces mature ovum and second polar body. Actually, this is brief idea. Right? Okay, let me give you a brief idea about oogenesis. Then I will go in detail. See here, there will be primordial female sex cell. Primordial female sex cell. Chromosomal number is 46 XX. This is primordial female sex cell. This primordial female sex cell undergoes mitotic division. Here, mitosis. And produces oogonia. Means primordial cells, they undergoes mitotic division and produces oogonia. These oogonia will not undergoes any division actually. Once they forms oogonia, these oogonia will converts or transforms into primary oocyte. How? By enlarging its size. When oogonia enlarges its size and they converts into primary oocytes. Primary oocytes. These primary oocytes undergoes meiotic division now. Actually, you know, meiosis contains two phases, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So, this primary oocyte undergoes meiosis 1 and produces one larger cell and one smaller cell. This larger cell, what you are calling secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte. And this smaller cell, what we call first polar body. First polar body. And the secondary oocyte will enters into meiosis 2. Here, meiosis 2. meiosis II, and produces again here one larger cell and one smaller cell. This larger cell what we call mature oocyte, mature oocyte, and the smaller cell what we call second polar body. Second polar body. Actually, this is very brief idea about oogenesis. From the primordial sex cells, oogonia will form by means of mitotic division. These oogonia undergoes conversion. That means these oogonia will enlarge and becomes primary oocytes. These primary oocytes undergoes meiosis I and produces secondary oocyte and first polar body. And the secondary oocyte undergoes meiosis II and produces mature oocyte or mature ovum and second polar body. Right? Now, we will see in detailed description of oogenesis. Actually, primordial sex cells appeared in the wall of yolk sac at the 4th week of intrauterine life. Is it that I have discussed? Those cells, primordial sex cells, they traveled through the dorsal mesentery of hindgut and reaches to the site where gonads are going to develop. That site what we call gonadal ridge. Gonadal ridge proliferate to form some cords, that cords what we call sex cords or gonadal cords. These primordial sex cells, they goes, that means they traveled or they migrated through the dorsal mesentery and reaches to the site where gonads are going to develop, and they will incorporate it within the sex cords or gonadal cords. In case of males, these cords, what are these cords? Sex cords. Sex cords will canalize and forms a seminiferous tubules. But in case of females, these sex cords will break down, right? And the primordial sex cells will be incorporated within the ovary, right? So that I have told you, still I am drawing one more time. This is cut section of embryo after folding, and this is hindgut, and here is the mesentery. In the posterior part, on either side of mesentery or on either side of midline, we can form two elevations, two bulgings, right? These two bulgings or two elevations what we call gonadal ridge. These gonadal ridges proliferate to form, this is gonadal ridge, this gonadal ridge proliferate to form cords. These cords what we call sex cords, right? And what is this? Yolk sac. Yolk sac, within the yolk sac there will be appearance of primordial sex cells at the 4th week of intrauterine life. After folding, they travelled through the dorsal mesentery or they migrated through the dorsal mesentery, and they will incorporate it into the sex cords. They will incorporate it in the sex cords, right? In case of males, these sex cords will canalize and forms the seminiferous tubules, but we are discussing in females. So these sex cords will break down, right? And these primordial cells are there, no? These primordial sex cells, they will be incorporated within the ovary. Clear? So that primordial sex cell I have taken over here. these primordial sex cells starts mitotic division around third month of intrauterine life. Third month of intrauterine life. They have formed at the 4th week and they have started mitotic division around third month of intrauterine life. That means what? Oogenesis has been started within the mother's womb itself. Right? So, at the third month of intrauterine life, these primordial female sex cells undergoes mitotic division and there will be production of oogonia. So, all these primordial female sex cells undergoes mitotic division and produces oogonia. Right? When ovary reaches sufficient number of oogonia, mitotic division will stops. So, if the mitotic division stops means ovary contains only oogonia now. All primordial sex cells undergone mitotic division, now there is only oogonia. That means after birth there is no formation of oogonia. So, what I am trying to say, all these primordial female sex cells undergoes mitotic division around third month of intrauterine life and produces oogonia. When ovary gets sufficient number of oogonia, at that time mitotic division will stops, right? And there will be conversion of oogonia into the primary oocyte. But if you observe around 20 weeks of intrauterine life, 20 weeks of intrauterine life, we can found around 7 million oogonia. Around 20 weeks of intrauterine life, we can found 7 million oogonia. Right? Actually, that is highest number. Once ovary reaches around this number of oogonia, mitotic division will be stopped. Then there will be conversion of oogonia into primary oocytes. Right? So, in the next step, there will be conversion of or there will be transformation of oogonia into primary oocyte. How they will transform? Just by enlarging the size of the oogonia. Once they enlarges their size, they becomes primary oocytes. Right? And we have discussed once, whenever there is a increasing the size of the cell, that cell will have difficult time to get sufficient nutrition. That's what these cells surrounded by follicular cells when they enlarges its size. So these follicular cells will give nutrition to this primary oocyte. Clear? So now primary oocyte has been formed from the oogonia. These primary oocytes at birth we can found 2 million primary oocytes. That means what? Remaining 5 millions from this 7 million has been degenerated. Only 2 millions are remaining at birth. Right? Then from this 2 million, at puberty, we can found only around 40,000 primary oocytes. What happened to remaining primary oocytes? They have been degenerated during childhood. In this 40,000 primary oocytes, only 400 primary oocytes only becomes secondary oocyte. Within this 400, only very few becomes mature oocyte. That means mature oocyte will form only after fertilization. Clear? and secondary oocytes will form only at the time of ovulation. So what has happened here? This oogonia converts into primary oocytes, right? Now at the 7th month of intrauterine life, at the 7th month of intrauterine life, 7th month of intrauterine life, these primary oocytes enters into meiosis 1. After entering into meiosis 1, they enters into prophase 1. In the prophase 1, we know that there will be leptotin, zygotin, pachytin, diplotin, diakinesis. Is it? This cell will complete leptotin, zygotin, pachytin. Then it entered into diplotin stage. Within the diplotin stage, this meiosis will paused. Pause means temporary stop. Right? So there will be pause or arrested under the influence of these cells. What are these cells? These are follicular cells. These follicular cells, they produce one substance called oocyte maturation inhibitor. This oocyte maturation inhibitor will pause the meiosis 1 at the diplotin stage. When it continues or when it resumes around 3 hours, prior to the ovulation. Prior to the ovulation, this arrest will be released and meiosis 1 will be resumed, and it completes the meiosis 1, and there will be production of secondary oocyte and first polar body. Here one thing we have to discuss. See here, meiosis 1 has been started at the 7th month of intrauterine life, and when it has been completed just before the ovulation. Ovulation starts at the puberty. Is it? So from the 7th month of intrauterine life to puberty, meiosis 1 is in the paused position or in the diplotin position, right? So just imagine this is the first primary oocyte has been completed first meiotic division. What is the time gap between 7th month of intrauterine life and 3 hours prior to the ovulation? 3 hours prior to the ovulation means ovulation will occur after puberty. Is it or not? Puberty age is around 12 to 13 years. Is it? Then what is the time gap between 7th month of intrauterine life to 12 to 13 years? Almost more than 12 to 13 years. Is it? So that much duration meiosis will be arrested, right? And this is in case of first primary oocyte to mature. Imagine one primary oocyte ovulated at the 45 years of age or 50 years of age. At that time, what is the time difference or what is the time gap? 7th month of intrauterine life to 50 years. So around 50 years of duration, meiosis will be in paused position. Very simple. Actually, I told you that there will be 40,000 primary oocytes are there. Within this 40,000, every month 5 to 12 follicles. Actually, this structure now what we are calling follicle. 5 to 12 follicles will start maturing. out of 5 to 12 follicles, only one will mature. Right? So, if you take every month one, how many months will be present in reproductive age of females? Actually, reproductive age of female is the lifespan or period in between the menarche to menopause. Menarche starts around 12 to 13 years and menopause means what? Cessation of menstrual cycle. And menarche means what? Menarche means initiation of menstrual cycle. Menopause means stoppage of or cessation of menstrual cycle. So, it is around 48 to 55 years. Right? So, the lifespan between these two, this life period, what we call reproductive period of female. What is the average time period? It is around 35 years. Is it or not? Clear? So, in 35 years, how many months will be there? 35 into 12. It's around 420 something will come. Right? So, around 420 only will ovulate. Right? Remaining will be degenerated. That's what I am trying to say. If you observe, time gap between the first primary oocyte to ovulate, it's around 12 to 13 years. And if you observe last primary oocyte to ovulate, it's around 45 years. Right? That means time duration to complete the meiosis 1 takes around 55 years. So, meiosis 1 will be past very long duration. That's what meiotic errors will be common. If there is very long duration of meiotic arrest, which will lead to meiotic errors like non-disjunction. What is non-disjunction? Non-disjunction is unequal distribution of chromosomes. Actually, during the cell division, half of the chromosome has to go one side, remaining half has to go another side. Is it? But non-disjunction means actually during the meiosis, what will happen? 23 chromosomes will go one side, remaining 23 will go another side. Instead of 23, if this cell contains 24 and this cell contains 22, because of unequal segregation, unequal distribution. At this time, if this oocyte fertilizes with the normal sperm contains 23 chromosomes. Here 24 chromosomes in the ovum. Resulting zygote contains 47 chromosomes. That means there will be extra representatives of that particular chromosome. Actually, each cell should have only 2 representatives of chromosomes. But in this case, there will be 3 representatives. That means one extra chromosome is there. That phenomenon or that condition what we call trisomy. That means tri means 3. 3 chromosomes are there. Usually only 2 should be there. Right? Okay. In other hand, instead of 23, because of unequal separation or because of unequal distribution, this cell contains only 22. At that time, this ovum fertilizes with the normal sperm. Resulting zygote contains 45 chromosomes. That means in that zygote, there will be only one representative of that particular chromosome. That means what? Only one representative is there. That phenomenon or that condition what we call monosomy. Right? So, that non-disjunction is common if there is long duration of meiosis. That's what the ideal age to give birth to the babies is in between 18 to 35 years. After 35 years, the duration of meiotic pause will be more, which leads to meiotic errors. Right? So, doctors will advise to have babies before 35 years of age. After 35 years of age, there will be chances, there will be risk to have trisomy children like Down syndrome and all. But in case of males also there will be a problem. In case of males, the aged fathers may give birth to the achondroplasia. Achondroplasia means body will be normal, but limbs, both upper limbs and lower limbs will be very sharp. That condition what we call achondroplasia. So coming to our topic proper, 3 hours prior to the ovulation, meiosis 1 has been completed and there will be production of secondary oocyte and first polar body. This secondary oocyte undergoes meiosis 2 as soon as completion of first meiotic division. Right? And again it will proceeds up to the metaphase 2. Up to metaphase 2. In metaphase 2, again this meiosis 2 will be paused. Meiosis 2 will be paused again. Here. Meiosis 2 has been paused over here. Meiosis 1 also arresting. Meiosis 2 also arresting. Meiosis 2 will arrest at the metaphase 2. Meiosis 1 will arrest at the diploid stage of meiosis 1. That means prophase 1. Clear? But when it will release, that means when it will complete the meiosis 2. Actually, meiosis 2 will complete only if there is union of sperm with the secondary oocyte. If there is sperm and comes and touches to it, then only it completes second meiotic division and there will be production of mature ovum and second polar body. If not, there is no completion of second meiotic division, there is no production of mature ovum and there is no production of second polar body. This secondary oocyte will degenerate in this stage itself. That means in the metaphase 2 itself it will be degenerated. Clear? So this is about oogenesis.